The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
The National Bank of Georgia published a report on money transfer statistics for May 2023. In May 2023, the volume of money transfers from abroad constituted 384.9 million USD, which is around 980 million lari, which is 23.9% or 128 million USD less than the amount in May 2022. 97.6% of the total money transfers from abroad came from 25 largest partner countries, with the volume of transfers from these countries each exceeding 1 million USD in May 2023. In May 2022, the share of these 25 countries constituted 98.3% of the total volume of money transfers. The president of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, stated she was ready to visit Ukraine if invited. Speaking to an Ukrainian media outlet, Ukrainskaya Pravda, President Zurabishvili responded to why she has not come to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, unlike many Western leaders. I was always ready to come, and today I'm ready too. So if you pass on a message, I can come over tomorrow, Salome Zurabishvili stated. Responding to a follow-up question of why Zelensky did not invite you, the president said, "It is not personal, and I think it is what we have described as not entirely satisfactory relations between government circles at this stage, so I feel the consequences of that. But again, I'm ready, and I'm sure we will have that opportunity. I hope that could be the Crimea platform occasion." The government has approved a change in the rules of the procurement of goods and services for United Airports of Georgia. According to the changes published in the Legislative Herald of Georgia, the Herald, no more than 4 million euros should be paid to Wizz Air for each based aircraft over 3 years. At this stage, the Hungarian low-cost airline is operating with 3 based ships from Kutaisi Airport. The air company announced plans to add the 4th ship by the end of the year. As a result, the company will receive no more than 4 million euro from United Airports of Georgia within 3 years, excluding VAT, in accordance with the number of transported passengers. According to the old decree, the previous amount was 5 million euro. In order for an airline to receive this amount, it must have at least 150,000 departing passengers. Apart from this, the decree also obliges to add at least 1 new destination, which has not been regularly performed at the relevant airport in the last 6 months. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Gvangilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up the business and the economy quick for you. June 2023 edition of the World Bank Global Economic Prospect (GEP) report has been launched. The event featured a presentation of the GEP report findings regarding global economic developments and prospects on growth, interest rates, financial markets, etc., and was followed by a panel discussion on the opportunities and challenges for Georgia derived from the global outlook.
According to the Global Economic Prospect Report, global growth is projected to slow significantly in the second half of this year, with weakness continuing into 2024, as tight monetary policy is expected to weigh substantially on economic activity. Inflation has been persistent in many countries, but is projected to decline gradually as demand weakens and commodity prices moderate. The recent banking sector stress in advanced economies will also affect economic activity through more restrictive credit conditions. Downside risks to the outlook includes possible further global financial stress and more persistent inflation than projected in the baseline. The report also discusses how increases in U.S. interest rates are affecting emerging market developing economies, and also we see in some cases a higher probability of financial crisis, potentially in particular in countries which have vulnerabilities.
For Georgian business community, it's very important to understand what's happening globally, what are the macro trends, because we are in globalized economy, and whatever happens in the region or worldwide has some effects on Georgian economy. What we see now that whatever the policies we did, it helped, so we avoid the second round effect. And once supply side factors are diminishing, we already see inflation now below target. Hopefully it will stay, and it's forecasted to stay below target, to stay pretty low for the remainder of the year, and to be closer to the target next year. So there may be few things what we have done on the policy tightening. So we have increased policy rate in 2021. In 2022, we kept it historically highest level, which was 11%. So currently it's 10.5. We already announced that gradually we will exit from this tight monetary policy, but that will be very gradual. So we are not going to ease very quickly, so we do it step by step. We are not going to decrease policy rates during every meeting, but maybe on every second meeting.
Since the Georgian parliament overruled the veto of the president to pass amendments in the organic law of Georgia on the National Bank of Georgia, the acting governor of the NBG, Archil Mestvirishvili, spoke publicly for the first time. According to Archil Mestvirishvili, the contents of the law have not changed, so NBG's position remains the same too. In his own words, the International Monetary Fund's program is very important for policy transparency, so we need to do whatever is necessary to keep funds program on track. Archil Mestvirishvili said the World Bank commented on this issue too. According to the World Bank's program lead, the National Bank of Georgia is a well-functioning and effective institution. They hope it remains that way.
The World Bank has had a very strong collaboration with the NBG over many years, and we see it as a very well-functioning and effective institution. So we don't really know whether these amendments were necessary. But our hope is that the NBG remains effective and remains independent to safeguard the macrofinancial stability of the country going forward.
On this law, we had comments, and we had also submitted officially comments. So this law is the same what was a couple months ago. So the comments are same. So we said that we don't like it, we don't agree, and we made it clear at that time. And we also highlight the risks that it could be impediment for the program with the IMF. Whether it will materialize or not, we need to see. And I think that it's better that we ask this question to the fund, what their statement means. But in general, I would like to use this opportunity to say that fund program is very important for the countries. And it's not only money, we don't borrow money under current program, but we engage in the program for policy transparency. So the heavy fund program means that you are doing macro policies, whatever the macro policies you do is correct. Of course, fund is not 100% correct all the time, but in general, it's a stamp of approval that the macroeconomic policies in the country is sound. And that's important for other IFIs, that's important for other investors who are investing in domestic economy, and that's important for economic stability and economic growth. So I think that if you ask me, we need to do whatever is necessary to keep fund program on track.
The statements have been followed after the IMF itself warned the parliament not to overrule the veto. IMF's voice has been left unheard. However, its stiff accents still remain hanging in the air.
IMF staff are dismayed by the announcement that Parliament plans to override the veto of the President to pass amendments that, in the view of IMF staff, would be harmful to the National Bank of Georgia's independence and credibility. We do not see a justification for such action and fear that it would undermine the progress that Georgia has made under the current fund-supported arrangement and elevate economic uncertainty. The National Bank of Georgia is, in our view, functioning effectively under its existing succession plan and under the acting governor. The passage of the vetoed amendments could imperil rather than enhance the NBG's role in providing an anchor of stability as a key economic policy institution in the country. IMF staff had already communicated its serious concerns in a February press statement following the staff visit at the time. We strongly urge the authorities to reconsider plans to override the president's veto of the NBG law amendments, including to facilitate continued strong and positive engagement with the IMF under Georgia's standby arrangement.
Some more news in Georgia's economy this week right now.
According to Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, surrogacy in Georgia will be allowed only for Georgian citizens. As Garibashvili explained at the government meeting, the bill to regulate the mentioned issue has already been sent to the parliament. A large part of the society is worried, and it's a more complex issue as it related to the safety of our citizens and the image of the country. This is the issue of surrogacy. Some time ago, we created a council working on demographic issues. One of the problematic issues that has been highlighted in surrogacy and the problems related to it in general. You know that foreign citizens have turned this into a business, and in recent years there is no regulation at all regarding this issue, Garibashvili said. According to him, the Ministry of Health will report additional information on the above to the public. According to the Minister of Health, Zura Bazarashvili, in vitro fertilization and surrogacy will be allowed only for Georgian citizens from January 1, 2024. As the minister explained at the briefing held after the end of the government session, the legislative initiative on the mentioned issue will be submitted to the parliament this week. According to the minister, only Georgian citizens will be able to have a child through in vitro fertilization and surrogacy, and it will be prohibited for citizens of foreign countries. As the minister said, according to the legislative changes, advertisements related to in vitro fertilization and surrogacy will be prohibited in Georgia. In addition, Azarashvili states that the principle of altruism will be regulated by the law. We are gearing up for another important event. As you know, Georgia will host the Winter Olympic Festival in 2025. We will allocate 100 million lari from the budget, and then we'll start making ready for the festival, Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili stated at the government meeting. According to him, relevant infrastructure will be built in Tbilisi and Bakuriani late this year. Biathlon and skiing courses will be built in Bakuriani. An ice cream place will be built in Tbilisi, and other new infrastructure will be added to Tbilisi and Bakuriani. This year, 25 million lari has been allocated already. In all, organizing this festival will cost 100 million lari, the Prime Minister said. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili announced the country's plan to adopt the Euro 5 car standard that stipulates the restriction of import of cars produced before 2013. Our desire and decision is that the regulation will come into force from January 1, 2024 for passenger cars and from January 1, 2024 for buses and trucks. However, the specific dates are still under discussion, the Prime Minister stated at the cabinet meeting. Garibashvili emphasized that cars of lower quality than the Euro 5 standard will no longer be eligible for registration after the mentioned dates. The Prime Minister says the highest pollution levels are recorded in Tbilisi, the capital city, and other major cities in Georgia. Registration of children at Tbilisi kindergartens will be carried out in 3 stages, with the socially vulnerable groups being the top priority, Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze announced at the municipal government meeting. A separate group for registration will be established for the children of municipal kindergarten employees, while the general registration will proceed as the 3rd stage. If changes are approved by Tbilisi City Assembly, the new rules of the registration procedure will apply from July. Also, according to Kakakaladze, Tbilisi will have 3 new kindergartens of modern standards in September. 10 kindergartens are under reconstruction. The day before yesterday, the Venice Commission issued its opinion on the draft law on the oligarchization. According to Venice Commission, this draft law should not be adopted because there are serious risks, said the EU ambassador to Georgia, Pavel Harchinski. According to the ambassador Harchinski, he supports the recommendations of the Venice Commission, and the bill on the oligarchization is among the European Commission's 12 priorities. What the Venice Commission suggests is a systemic approach, and that's why we also feel that a systemic approach is the right one, which means a lot of things: reform of judiciary, more efforts on anti-corruption, more transparency and accountability, which means a stronger state, and this is what we are willing to work with our Georgian counterparts in order to achieve, and you can count on our very strong support, he said. The Venice Commission, an advisory board of the Council of Europe, adopted the final opinion on the Georgia's de-oligarchization bill at the plenary session held on June 9 and 10. The president of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, stated she was ready to visit Ukraine if invited. Speaking to a Ukrainian media outlet, Ukrainskaya Pravda, Zurabishvili responded to why she hasn't come to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, unlike many Western leaders. I was always ready to come, and today I am ready too. So if you pass on a message, I can come over tomorrow, Salome Zurabishvili stated. Responding to a follow-up question of why Zelensky did not invite you, the president said, "It's not personal, and I think it's what we have described as not entirely satisfactory relations between government circles at this stage," Zurabishvili answered. Subsistence minimum for working-age male amounted to 233.7 lari in May 2023, which was 1.9 lari more compared to the same period of the last year, show the data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. According to Geostat, in May, the subsistence minimum for the average consumer increased by 1.7 lari compared to the previous months and amounted to 224 lari. The increase in the subsistence minimum is related to high inflation. The annual inflation rate amounted to 1.5% in May 2023. The subsistence minimum is calculated through a special food basket which was determined by the order of the Ministry of Health on May 8, 2003. Moreover, the subsistence minimum is the only indicator of food value.
Economics of Common Sense. The authors of the book talk with BMG about the importance of economic education and the possibility of using economics in life. Dr. Tony Ferrarini and Joe Colon point out that economic literacy is important for young people so that they can create a comfortable life and gain wealth in the future. Salome Matiashvili had a sit-down interview with the authors of the book.
Thank you for your time. And I really want to talk about the book, Common Sense Economics. What's it about? What are your expectations, and what do you think it will be useful for the audition?
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. Thank you for hosting us. Common Sense Economics, What Everyone Should Know About Wealth and Prosperity, is a book where two lead authors, James Gortney and Rick Stroop, took it on themselves to find the key core principles that could help everyone live better and more comfortably. And what we did is we scanned major economic textbooks and we found some core principles that are useful for those individuals who want to learn more about the science of life and choices.
Joe?
So the book is broken down into 4 parts. We start with part 1, which is just the core economic principles. We identify 12 key elements, as we call them, and it's just the common sense approach to everyday life. Incentives matter, and how to make choices better. Then we take those 12 principles and we apply them to a country setting, and we try to answer basic questions. Why do some countries grow faster and prosper, and why do some others not grow as fast or even go down with their income? And then we take the third part, the first part, and we apply it to the role of government. And we understand how market participants make decisions and the differences in how the political process and politicians and collective decision making is different. And then the last part is about personal finance. So once you have some basic economics, then we apply the same 12 elements to personal finance and help our readers understand how to build wealth.
So it will be practically useful for everybody.
Yes, very practical, everyday decisions.
I know you are working with the school students also.
Yes.
Could you tell me how important is economic education and how they can use it, or what is your feedback from them?
Well, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and it gives them an idea of how they can use common sense to make not only their lives better, but bring a lot of people in with them. And also, they challenged us to expand what we're doing. And so when we go back to the United States, we are going to be inspired by your students as well as your teachers to go in a different direction and make it more useful for the people and the citizens of Georgia.
What was the main message you took from children, from pupils or school students? I don't know.
The main message was students told us that it opened their eyes to a new way of seeing the world, a new way of making decisions, a new way of understanding the world around them. One student told us it was life-changing, and that is very humbling when somebody reads your book and they say it was life-changing. That might be a little extreme, but students told us it was just a great way to understand the world around them in a better way than what they had before the book.
And that's what I loved.
As far as I know, the book has also a teacher toolkit.
Yes.
What could you say about this, or how useful it will be for the teachers, or what are your expectations?
Yeah, so our two local partners is the Economic Fundamentals Initiative, directed by Randy Feiler, and he has gone to great lengths to secure funding, to translate the book, and translate lots of material. We have videos, we have other writings that have been translated into local languages. In this region of the world, he's translated into 10 different languages. Our local partner, Levin, with Georgia Economic Literacy.
It's already translated in Georgia?
It's already translated into Georgian. It's a free download on the website, so you don't have to be a teacher, you don't have to be a student. You can be anybody who's wanting to know more about economics and personal finance. Go to the website, you can download the book for free instantly and start reading right away. You can watch the videos. So the resources, we're trying to add more every week. And if anybody has any good ideas, or if you see something that you think would be helpful, send it to Levin, send it to Randy, and we'll make sure we look at it. And if it fits within the project, then we'll get it translated.
So it's widely useful. I also want to talk about Economic Olympiad.
Okay.
How is it going? What was your expectation, and if it's met already?
It's exceeded our expectations. We have 200 students who have
200 schools.
200 schools
Not
who
students.
have
200.
200 schools, 1,200 students.
and there'll be a competition for the best of the best. And that's in this space because we want to make economics accessible to everyone. So it's not just kind of like cornered in a math class or in a science area. Most people only have one point of contact with economics. So why is it that we want to bring our students and our young people here? Is because we want to give them hope in the future, and it's through their decisions. Their most valuable asset is to strategically and purposefully choose, how to make themselves better and others too.
And what's your opinion about this? What was your expectation?
It's exceeded expectations. I mean, and I had very high expectations because I have a lot of faith and trust in our local partners, and we knew that they were recruiting students and teachers all over the country. This is not just Tbilisi. This is all over the country of Georgia that this is happening. So again, 200 schools, 1,200 students, diversified from around different schools all around the country. We want to make sure we thank the Bank of Georgia and Economic Fundamentals Initiative for putting together the funding to make all this happen. We couldn't do it without our local partners and without some funding sources. and the number of students has just been tremendous, and we hope to grow more next year. So if students are interested, or if parents are interested and want their students, follow the Georgia Economic Literacy website and talk to your teachers, talk to your school, and get involved next year.
Why is economical education important? Like maybe 3 points you can.
Starting with, every decision is an economic one. Even though it may not involve finances, you're still making use of your time, your talent, and your treasure. Do it in a purposeful way. Common sense economics in the approach that is being taken here is stripped of the heavy jargon, and it's just based on common sense. And since the decisions we make today have future consequences, it makes sense to invest in our youth, because they are going to be our doctors, our teachers, our plumbers, and those people who take care of us in our old age. So we want to live comfortably.
Okay, what are your points?
For me, it's about just better understanding the world around you. If you understand incentives matter and understand how other people are making decisions, it will make you a better manager in life. If you are going to be a company manager, if you're going to run a business, understanding how people make decisions is going to help you be more effective. And then, of course, very personally, making yourself better, whether it's in business or in your personal life, understanding the economic world around you. And then I love the personal finance part of it, because everybody needs to make good personal finance decisions. We want people building wealth, not building debt. We want people making good decisions for the long term, not just the short term, not just speculation, but true investing, which is a long-term type of mentality. So understanding the world around you today, and also making good decisions for the world around you 20 or 30 years from now, is what we want students to remember.
What is general picture? How economic market has changed during the years?
Well, generally, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think the world we live in today is just so incredible. Just the fast pace that we can communicate. I have my cell phone with me, and I can communicate with my daughters instantly back in the United States. We get news very quickly today. But in more of the economics, I think seeing a more connected world, the fact that I can go to a street vendor in Tbilisi and buy some fruit and pay with my credit card, and that person get paid instantly, I can get my goods and services. To me, it's just a wonderful time to be alive and to see the world unfolding. I know there's a lot of concern about AI and other things, but I think overall that's going to be more helpful than it is harmful.
And I agree. The integrated path is the strategic one. You can walk through the streets of Tbilisi and you see the mix of the tradition, the historic, with the ultra-modern. And it's a combination of forces that give us opportunities in the future that are unimagined today. So though we get caught up in AI and cryptocurrencies and digital technologies and such, it's important to be mindful of the past because it brought us to where we are in the present, but it's also going to shape opportunities for the future.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your answers, and thank you for your work. So wish you good luck, and maybe we will see you soon again.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Please stay in touch with us at the website.
Perfect bridge to the weekly business news and outlook. Until Natia Taktakishvili. Mazda Center Tegeta presented a new car in Georgia Wellness Resort. Bioli hosted the event, which was attended by media representatives. The guests had the opportunity to see the new Mazda's premium model CX-60 on the spot, learn about its capabilities and design innovations. Mazda CX-60 is a premium class model which has a refined interior and exterior, as well as advanced technology, safety systems and other technical features focused on the driver and passengers. The car is equipped with an innovative facial recognition system installed in the car cabin. The car will automatically take on a memorized configuration once it recognizes the driver. After the car is turned off, it automatically pulls the seat back to make it easier for the driver to get out the car. At this stage, the mild hybrid and gasoline models of Mazda CX-60 are presented on the Georgian market. Mazda Center Tegeta plans to introduce the plug-in hybrid model in the near future.
Spa Center Pauza, located in Sheraton Grand Metairie Palace, opened an outdoor pool for this summer season. Mariam Popkhadze, marketing manager of the hotel, said that they wanted to open an outdoor pool earlier, but it was delayed due to the bad weather. As she notes, the pool already has quite many visitors. However, Pauza expects their number to increase during the season. According to the representative of Pauza, the cost has increased compared to the previous season, but the pool maintains competitive prices. A single visit on weekdays costs 120 lari, while on weekends 150 lari. Compared to the previous season, this price has slightly increased due to the high demand. The pool can accommodate 60 people at the same time. The price of one-time visit includes not only the use of pool, but also the Pauza spa services, our saunas, as well as indoor pools, says Mariam Popkhadze. According to her, the hotel guests mostly use spa services, while the locals visit outdoor pool. The theater offers its guests a new show. The performance Georgian show brings history of Georgia and introduces the culture and cuisine to the guests. One of the main participants in the Georgian show is Sukhishvili, the world-famous national ballet. The numbers performed at the Georgian show are connected to each other with texts written by famous Georgian writer Akam Orchiladze to create a unified history of the country. The performance is supplemented with audio-visual installations that make the event even more impressive. I hope that our creative group will please both Georgian and international guests, says Zal Chikobava, the artistic director of the theater. The theater is based on the idea of a dining theater, meaning that the performances are accompanied by dinner. The Georgian show is no exception, although in that case the menu was created in accordance with the demands of Georgian cuisine. So the Georgian show is an exceptional opportunity for not just locals but also for tourists who want to travel through Georgia in a unique way and have a unique experience along with it. Winery Chelti entered Swedish market. Anna Mirianashvili, commercial director of Chelti, told TV program Business Morning. According to her, a state monopoly is established on alcoholic products in the Scandinavian countries, and entering the market is available after winning the tender. We sent our Khikhui for a blind tasting. The members of the jury did not know which wine they were tasting. Khikhui is a niche product in which interest is quite high. We are very happy that Georgian endemic varieties are interesting for foreign customers, says Anna Mirianashvili. Chelti will send 3,600 bottles of wine to Sweden at the first stage. However, in case of positive response, the number of orders will increase. In addition to Sweden, as the representative of the winery industry notes, 80% of Chelti products is exported to 27 European countries. Renovated gold market will be opened in a few days on the first floor of Tbilisi Central. Natia Kadagishvili, the financial director of Tbilisi Center, spoke about this while visiting TV program Women's Narrative. We recently completed an important project. We expanded the gold market on the first floor of Tbilisi Central. The new space is equipped according to modern standards, where we will offer customers even more diverse jewelry. The market is located on an area of 5,000 square meters, she explained. In addition, the financial director talked about the plans for the near future and noted about the expansion of the company in other areas. We have small jewelry islands in the corridor where we allow small entrepreneurs to carry out their activities and earn income, she said. Tbilisi Central management is comprised of 95 persons at this stage, while the center employs 1,500 people. Leon Dadwani, the owner of Hotel Lahili, says that the tourist season in Svaneti started in May, and at this stage, hotel reservations reach 20–30%. As Dadwani notes, most of the guests are from Germany and Thailand. Svaneti is more interesting for European tourists because it's closer to Kutaisi and they get there easily. They stay for 2–3 nights on average. There are also Russians, but their share in Svaneti tourists is not large, said Dadwani. As for the prices, accommodation costs did not increase much compared to the previous year. The average price ranges from 100 lari to 200 lari per night. Company Viniveria is working on entering the new exporting markets. As co-founder Gia Piridashvili said, the company produces up to 15 types of wines, and the annual volume of which is 700,000 bottles. Half of the production is exported abroad. About 20% of the wine exports account for Russia, but we are not dependent on that market. Our wines belong to high price segment, which start from $5 and go up. We export to Norway, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Italy, France, Australia, the USA. We have been choosing partners for a very long time and increasing our sales step by step, Gia Piridashvili said. The co-founder of the wine production company believes that the diversification of wine sales is important. That's why Viniveria continues to study new markets. The company plans to enter Korea, Canada, and Japan. Sport complex Neptune declares that the complex adjusted prices by about 13% this year due to the inflation. The company's marketing manager Nicolas Arabidze noted in an interview with BMWG that if a 1 month unlimited subscription costs 350 lari, now it costs 420 lari. As for sales, the swimming pool's marketing manager notes that they expect it to exceed pre-pandemic sales by 20%. Early this summer, it can be noticed that the number of customers at our pool has increased, which gives us a reason to say that in addition to Georgians, there is also demand from Ukrainian migrants and European tourists, which will further increase our sales, said Arabidze. Company Silk Development plans to build Silk Towers project in Batumi this year after the completion of Dzane-Kontsri Botaniko. As the company's business development director Georgi Kapanadze said during his visit to the TV program Real Estate Prospect, the project provides arrangement of 5 towers, parking lot on the land area of 2 hectares and yacht club on the territory of 1 hectare. The total investment of the project is up to $300 million, which will be finished in 5-7 years. Silk Development has completed construction of the first residential apartment project, Botaniko, which is located 9 kilometers away from Batumi. The company claims that 65% of the project is already sold. Technology and startups are in the Checkpoint's spotlight yet again. A few weeks back, during the Georgian Startup Summit organized by Startup Connect, BMG's Business Evening anchor Georgi Aronia had the chance to talk to several Silicon Valley venture capitalists about the Georgian startup ecosystem and many more. One of our interviewees was Ron Weissman, incoming president of the Angel Capital Association, who worked with Steve Jobs for half a decade in marketing and strategy. Let's watch the interview together.
Hi Ron, it's a pleasure to have you here for us at BMG. Interviewing angel investors in general is always a big opportunity because we, as a business media, we always seek investors who would love to invest in Georgia because otherwise our country will never develop. So thank you for this opportunity.
It's my pleasure to be here. It's my second time in Georgia directly, but I've been helping Georgia for about 4 years, sometimes in person, sometimes over the web. Evaluate startups and help with best practices.
So we're here in Batumi attending the Georgian Startup Summit. Within the Georgian Startup Summit, the Startup World Cup competition was also held, and you served on the jury of that. Let's start by discussing the startups that participated in the World Cup. What impressions did you get from them?
First of all, since my first trip here 4 or 5 years ago, the startup ecosystem has really matured, and the startups I'm seeing today are orders of magnitude better than they were when I first came, when the ecosystem was brand new. So things are really developing well. A number of the startups I've seen can compete with the best of startups globally. So very, very strong companies getting excellent mentorship and support. So I'm very impressed.
What about this year's cohort? Did you see anyone interesting in particular?
The company that I thought, for me, that was the most interesting was Elvin, which is a company that has some new material science. It's able to wrap lithium-ion batteries in a substance that can deter the explosions and fire that are retarding some of the EV market's growth. And that was for me, that was the most interesting because the problem is severe, and when a fire takes place, it can cause catastrophic damage. I also own an EV, and I would love to see it better protected in the future versions. So I like that. Also, one more thing is that we're in a tougher economic climate right now for startups, and we're moving back to deep technology. It's no longer just about dating sites and the internet. It's now solving some really important problems. And I believe that helping the EV revolution, as well as creating a whole new level of material science, is very important, and I'm very pleased with what that company is doing.
Ron, let's talk about the Georgian innovation or startup ecosystem. You just mentioned that you've been working tangentially to Georgian startup ecosystem for years, so you might know, what are the defining characteristics, in your opinion, of the Georgian startup ecosystem?
That's not a question I'm skilled enough to answer, because I know a few of the participants. I don't know all the participants, and I understand there's some very, very important participants, Startup Connect, things of that sort, that I don't yet really know. So I want to be fair to all parties. But I will say, based on the quality of the output, the ecosystem is getting better and better and more extensive. So all the signs look very good, but I couldn't compare the partners the way I can in some of the places that I'm more familiar, like, for example, like Armenia, where I know the ecosystem extremely well.
One huge problem that exists here in Georgia is that basically venture capital is non-existent. At the same time, we have a small community of angel investors, but angel investing by itself is not developed. How can we solve these problems? How can we teach local investors how to invest in venture deals or as angel investors?
Several things. First of all, my organization, the Angel Capital Association, offers a 9-course introduction to angel investing. There are other organizations like USMAC that do the same thing for entrepreneurs. So I would say set up a regular education program. Second is, the way venture capital works is we typically fund, let's say, 1 out of every 50 or 100 deals we see. So the way you do this is by working regionally, by working within the region, not just in Georgia itself, to get the number of deals. Also, because many of the companies that one would fund would be operating as well in Kazakhstan or Armenia, as well as Georgia, and you want to make sure that those synergies exist from the beginning, so they can grow bigger than they could if they only focused on the Georgian market or the Kazakhstan market themselves. So operating regionally for VC, it's probably the first way to go.
Ron, you are an incoming president at the Angel Capital Association in the US. Can you elaborate on what you guys do at the ACA?
Sure. The Angel Capital Association is the umbrella organization for individual and group angels in North America. We've got 16,000 members. We have 250 angel groups, and we do several things. We help syndicate deals. We provide education. We've provided thousands and thousands of education hours to angels around the world. We also have ways of collaborating, sharing best practices. We also represent the interests of angels with the U.S. regulatory authorities to make sure that angels get favorable tax treatment, that entrepreneurs can keep much of the income that they've generated or the profits they've generated when they exit. So we're looking out for the ecosystem in the U.S. to make sure that it's favorable to growth.
Do you have a particular investment strategy?
Yes. Yes, I'm a classic business-to-business angel. I focus on AI. I focus on big data. I focus on analytics, kind of solving hard problems for businesses, often in vertical markets like oil and gas or national security or fintech. As I like solving big problems, but I do it in areas I really know well. And I come out of the AI and data industries, and I've been doing this for 30 years. So I tend to focus on things I know about.
One of your biographical traits that fascinates me the most is that you worked for years at Next, the company founded by Steve Jobs during turbulent times at Apple. Did you know Steve Jobs directly?
Yes, I did. I know Steve extremely well. In fact, after Steve died, I gave 3 different eulogies for Steve. Sometimes I worked direct for Steve, sometimes I did other things, but one point I was director of marketing for Europe, and I was based in Europe, commuting everywhere from the Czech Republic to Sweden to Germany to Britain to France. So I spent a fair amount of my business life in Europe, and that's one of the reasons that I enjoyed my work at Next. But working for Steve was amazing, absolutely amazing. He was tough. He changed his mind a lot. He expected you to anticipate what he was going to do next. But the thing I liked best, besides he was a great motivator, was that Steve was data-driven. He said, Ron, I'm going to fire you. He did not like a direction I was pushing on the company. So I said, okay. I hired a camera crew. I took that camera crew to Chicago and New York. I interviewed customers. I came back with the media and I said, Steve, this is what our customers want. He said, okay, you win. And we fought bitterly about some things, but he respected you, not just if you had an emotional point of view, but if you could back up your point of view with hard data.
In Steve Jobs' career, Next has a special place because it brought him back from Apple to Apple, basically. What would you attribute this success to? What qualities of Steve or the team?
It has to do with product market fit. So when Apple bought Next, Apple had a very aging software architecture operating system. And Next was one of 2 or 3 leading innovative software platforms. And Apple bought us not just for Steve, but Apple bought us because they wanted a new operating system, OS 10, for Apple. And that was the primary reason. So we understood product market fit. We had a great product market fit. Apple had some good people evaluating multiple opportunities. And that was the initial reason. But when Steve joined Apple, he changed everything. It was a brilliant move for Apple. Remember, when Apple bought Next, Apple was not doing well itself. In fact, one of the first things Steve did was get money from Microsoft so that Apple could survive. So we had a brilliant vision and a brilliant visionary in a guy named Avi Tevanian. He was the head of software, and he had invented the Mach operating system when he was at Carnegie Mellon. And we adopted that. We hired Avi to be our head of software. So we had a strategic advantage for many, many years. And it was the software that customers bought us for, not so much the hardware. In fact, we gave up the hardware at one point. But it was the genius of the software that solved some very, very important problems around a different model called object-oriented programming. Very modular, very easy to maintain. And that was really our core strength.
Have you had the chance to join Apple after the acquisition?
About that time, I had left to go to another startup.
Could you elaborate why?
I left Next before the acquisition, and I felt that unless something really dramatically happened, that Next was going to continue to sell, continue to operate, but would not have a big opportunity because of what Microsoft and others were doing. So I had left before the acquisition. If I had stayed, I would have been quite happy to go to Apple as well. I had lots of friends at Apple. I had consulted for Apple. But it was time for me to take a different direction. I went into a very deep vertical market, the insurance industry, for a while.
I'd like to ask you about current trends on the global market concerning big tech, the biggest technological companies in the world, especially in the context of artificial intelligence, OpenAI, ChatGPT, all of these buzzwords. Would you say that it's a bubble?
So AI has had multiple bubbles and multiple AI winters. The gentleman who kickstarted the modern generation of AI, Jeff Hinton, kickstarted AI again in 2012 by showing the importance of neural computing models when his students won the ImageNet competition, really doing vastly better than anybody else had done in recent memory. That started 2012, the rise of AI. Again, right now, I think we've got some structural problems. ChatGPT is a great parlor trick. It works very well, but in part it works well because the packaging of the output is so compelling. It's a great system, but ChatGPT does not know anything it has not previously encountered. So, but it's able to do vast amounts of normal kind of manual data retrieval work brilliantly. To compete for ChatGPT's next generation, whether you're Apple or Facebook or Google or Microsoft, it requires billions of dollars of funding and the best minds in computer science. So this is not a place that startups can compete. Where startups can compete is with the practical uses of tools like ChatGPT in vertical markets. But the negative there is that there's no barriers to entry. Anybody can use the same ChatGPT engines, so they will not have that kind of moat that protects them. I think the biggest structural issue in the AI industry right now is finding brand new methods that don't require soccer field-sized data farms and hundreds of the world's best data scientists. And so there is a lot of work going on in AI that is not so resource intensive, what's called green AI, that doesn't require the kind of compute power or the number of geniuses to power it. So things like sparser matrices using smaller computes to make some breakthroughs. So I'm a big fan of some of the next generation tools. There's a whole new area emerging as well, where you take the neural model, the brain model, along with the kind of decision support model that had been used in the early 2000s. And these are coming together, rule-based and neural-based computing that I think will be even more powerful than we see today. There are investment opportunities, but it's yet to be seen how we can best work with ChatGPT, because on one hand, it'll generate lots of similar companies. On the other hand, unless you're Google, it's hard to compete.
Do you think AI should be regulated? And if yes, how? I understand that it's a very broad question, of course.
I have not made up my own mind yet. On the one hand, the people calling for regulation, some of them are behind in AI and maybe using this as a time to catch up. If I can stop my competitors from moving forward, I can catch up. On the other hand, the progress of AI is so dramatically fast that we really can't predict how to control it. So I think there's some legitimate concern, but my other concern is who will regulate the regulators?
What's your take on the general AI, general artificial intelligence? Is it a possibility?
We're not there at all, and ChatGPT is not a symbolic reasoning system. It does not understand things. It has no consciousness. So there's lots of development of new technology like memory, for example, that's needed before we can even begin to approach a general AI. That's still off in the future. But I am nervous. When the brightest minds, like the guy I mentioned, Geoff Hinton, says, slow the train down, I'm scared, there's good reasons to be nervous.
The last question I want to ask you concerns startups, because we're on the Georgian Startup Summit. I ask this question to all the investors. Could you list some tips and trips and some advice to startup founders? What should they do? What should they focus on?
That's a great question. I have some personal favorite areas based on some of the work I do, but I do think that the deep application of AI to some vertical markets will be the next big thing, and probably the logical thing. The key thing is, can you develop your own unique your intellectual property? So some of the work that's going on right now is in areas like healthcare, where you're building specialized taxonomies, where you're building special databases. The integration of statistical methods along with textual, unstructured information is wide open. So I think that deeply understanding a vertical market, deeply bringing new data that you own to bear on that market is certainly one set of opportunities. But there are a zillion opportunities. For me, curing cancer is certainly an objective we still have. So applying these techniques to problems that really matter, like navigation, like safer streets, better autonomous driving, better autonomous vehicles, certainly curing horrible diseases. Those wide open problems that what I call problems that matter. So I'm hoping that people focus more on problems that matter than what we've done in the past 5 or 6 years, which has been pretty trivial.
Ron, thank you very much for the interview. It was a pleasure, and I really hope that during your next visit to Tbilisi we can talk again. Thank you.
I would be delighted to do that. Thank you for some very intelligent questions.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday. Till then, all the updates on business and economics in Georgia and beyond gather on BM.G. See you soon.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.